prayer and our pledge. Our Father,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council roll call. Mr. Powell.
Here.
Mr. Gertz.
Here.
Mr. Lynn.
Here.
Mr. Albrink is absent. He went to the doctor. He might be still at the doctor as we speak. Mr. Lindeman.
Here.
Mr. Fishesher. Mr. Fishesher has an operation tomorrow, so he asked to be forgiven for not coming. And Miss Edichico has also staying home because people in her family have COVID, and she's waiting for her test.
Make a motion to excuse all those people.
That's second.
Motion made by Mr. Lindeman, seconded by Mr. Lynn to excuse Mr. Albrink, Mr. Fishesher, and Miss Edichico. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? They are excused. There are no minutes tonight. No one from outside of the council meeting asked for audience participation, but if there's anyone here that would like to step up to the microphone, state your name and address, and address council. And I'm gonna guess there's gonna be quite a few, so just get up there when you're ready.
Good evening. Patrick Ormond, along with my wife Tracy, 2720 Maple Tree Court. I want to start by thanking each of you for your service to Reading. If you are a council member running for re-election, best of luck to you on November 2nd. If you are not running again, a special thank you for your time and talent during your time on council. Reading is better for your effort, so thank you. I want to speak tonight about the recycling issue that is currently being considered as part of our next garbage contract. We're number one is a phrase that brings out positive feelings for most people. The United States is the number one economy in the world. We have the greatest military in the world. People want to be number one in their athletic, academic, and business ventures. America even has the world's biggest ball of twine located somewhere in Kansas. We're number one. But we're also number one in a much less positive endeavor. We are the number one most wasteful country in the world. And the runner-up country isn't even a close second. We in the United States make up just 4% of the world's total population, yet we generate 12% of the planet's solid municipal waste, with each and every American individual generating about 1,700 pounds of waste per year. We are also number one in another not such great way, the lack of political will to change a broken system. The United States has a total average waste diversion rate of about 35%, well below that of most European nations. Reading has a diversion rate of under 8%. We can certainly do better than that as a city. Here is where it would be wonderful to at least be average here in Reading. And our garbage, as it turns out, is the highest quality, best garbage in the world. We're number one again. Let's be honest, sometimes our packaging is worth more than what's contained inside the package. Did you know that basic paper and cardboard can be recycled 5 to 7 times each before the end of its useful life? Glass and aluminum cans can be recycled an infinite number of times with no degradation in quality. In fact, a recycled aluminum beverage container can be remanufactured and back on a store shelf within just 60 days. Yet we in Reading, and so many places in this country, throw away this material after just one use, to be buried in a hole somewhere in a place like Coleraine Township. Even single-use plastic drink bottles are being recycled now into polyester materials used to make raincoats, sweaters, jackets, and other clothing items, saving so far over 20 billion, yes, that's 20 billion plastic water bottles from ending up in the world's landfills. Recycled plastic is now also being added to asphalt, used in the repaving of roads worldwide, including in the United States, adding extra strength and durability to that of standard asphalt. And economically, recycling is good for the economy. Recycling creates 10 jobs nationally for every 1 job that's created by traditional garbage disposal. And yes, it will cost our residents here in Reading a little bit of money to recycle until such time as recycling becomes more mainstream. But it is simply the right thing to do to offset our sometimes overly consumer society. So when the time comes to award the next waste collection contract in the next few weeks, it is certainly our hope that Reading will join the other 32 communities in Hamilton County as a recycling-first community to help us make the best use of our God-given resources. Thank you all for your consideration.
Thank you,
Thank
Pat.
you. Mr. Lindeman.
Patrick will be opening the bids on the 29th of this month for the waste and recycling. So,
Is that a public event?
Yeah, it should be public.
Absolutely.
29th.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know
public.
exactly what time, but
Usually noon, isn't it?
my hope is that.
12 o'clock, isn't it, usually?
A lot of them are 10 a.m. I'm so sorry, we will get that information out.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, most of the road openings are in the morning. It's been a while since garbage.
Anyone else in the audience that would like to step up?
I can't pass up an opportunity.
Name and address?
Richard Morgan, 2606 Maple Tree Court.
I echo what he said, but he says it in a much nicer, polite way. I'm not that polite. You know, we rented the Kenny Park this summer, some Saturday night, and had maybe 150 people there or something like that. And you know, it's a lot of cans, a lot of bottles, and no recycling. I mean, there's no cans for recycling. You know, that's wrong. That's terribly wrong. We need to have cans. You know, we need to buy about 40 cans or whatever and hit these parks with them. It's a sin. You know, we're behind. Everyone around here does recycling. Sharonville, Evendale, Blue Ash, Amberley, Deer Park, Laughlin. Laughlin's even doing it. You know the two that aren't? Reading. You know who's the sister there, Reading? Arlington Heights. That's a damn shame. That is a damn shame. Be put in the same cubicle with them. Got to do something, guys. Today's world, got to change. Thank you.
Anyone, Richard, comment?
Mr. Orman, Pat, do we not have a fellow that's working with us for grantsmen? And
Yes.
maybe you could explain. I thought they were going to give us some grants to get recycling bins in the parks, are we not?
Right, the parks are a whole separate.
You better get up. I can't hear you on TV without the mic.
Yeah, so the park recycling is a separate issue, and that is very likely going to happen regardless of how you choose to vote on curbside recycling. But yes, we have approximately $70,000 in our coffers to outfit each and every park in the city of Reading, Veterans Memorial Stadium, the Hayfie Fieldhouse. We just, you know, we're working out those details. Probably, hopefully, springtime comes around, early summer, you know, we can get those in place.
I thought Mr. Morgan certainly would want to know that, so we've got the grant to have recycling in the parks. That definitely will happen.
Definitely will.
Yes.
Definitely, okay. Now, my
Better go up there, Rich.
It's exercise. No charge.
Well, you do all that announcing at the games, you do good at that, I mean, come on, I mean,
Go once up and once down, that's it.
those are a lot of steps up there.
Yeah, it takes about 10 minutes to get up there, Tony. What was I going to say now? Wait a minute. What did you say? Oh, the recycling. Yeah. What concerns me is we get the recycling cans, okay, and then we just take it. And I'm not criticizing. I would never criticize Seth or Jeff Wright or anybody like that. They're terrific people. But I worry about them just taking it over there behind the stadium, just dumping it in any one of the containers, and that's not recycling.
No.
You know, that's not recycling. It's got to be dumped in a separate container. And again, let me go back to that party we had. Jeff Wright and Seth did an unbelievable job of having that place in spick and span condition. Can't say enough good things about those people. I think I sent you a note on it, but Bo.
You absolutely did.
Yeah.
Still have it.
They're good people. We got a lot of good people in Reading. Firemen, policemen, a lot of good people.
Yep.
Service department, you know, good people. I just don't want to be grouped in with Arlington Heights, you know.
Anybody else want to speak their mind up here?
Well, since I have to say it, since it was, we love Arlington Heights. And a lot of wonderful people in Arlington Heights as well. The mayor's bigger than I am, so I'll be careful.
We have contracts with them too,
He's
so
a
it
good
works out
friend.
real well
Yes, we
for
do.
us. We're doing work for them now. You can't-
They're like a little brother we're bringing along. That's
So if Steve's watching, and make note,
Steve Kress might not be real happy with us.
that's awesome. We all need help. We all do need help.
That's right. Hi, Mary Zander, 317 Walnut Street, and same vein as these other two gentlemen have been speaking about. And from my perspective for the curbside recycling, I kind of am taking some points from James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, if anyone is familiar with him or that book. And that is to make it easy. And I feel like having curbside recycling for everyone in Reading would make it easy for everyone to recycle. Because even if recycling isn't perfect, which nothing in life is perfect, that it's still a net positive in the right direction and makes things better, more efficient overall in terms of both the cost and long-term benefits for our community. And so as a community, if we are, as was mentioned, working together to help reduce our waste overall, such as working with the Hamilton County with that grant that we're working on to get additional measures in place to help reduce our waste as a full community, curbside recycling would help to make a huge, significant, equitable step for all. Because there has been some talk, about the Hayfie Fieldhouse recycling facilities that are available, and that's true. My family used those for a long time, took our recycling over to those facilities, and we were very thankful that those are there, but we all know that those aren't free either. So even if there is a small cost for curbside recycling, that it likely could be offset because of that cost that could be saved from those other bins that are available at Hayfie Fieldhouse. And the other aspect of equity is that not everyone would be able to access those. So if you have curbside recycling for everyone, then anyone who maybe isn't as capable of getting to those additional facilities, they could put it right there in their curbside location. Or people who maybe don't have access to be able to homebound, those types of things, make it more available for all. And then for someone who's also very financially, fiscally conservative as well, that looking at the long-term benefits of recycling would decrease our cost in the long term for our waste management. And so that's something that also I think is very important to everyone in Reading as well, saving at the bottom line. So to make successful change, to make it as easy as possible for everyone. And finally, I also would like to echo what Pat said. I really want to thank everybody for your time and your service who works as with the city of Reading overall, and then also for city council, especially for those of you who are going to be retiring at the end of your current term. Really appreciate your time. And then good luck to everyone who is running it as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
You know, I guess I,
Still in- Okay,
go ahead, Doug.
Go ahead.
It's contagious because we thrive and walk with a purpose. I was over by CVS and I called Patrick and told him about this. And there were two gentlemen out there and they both had pretty good-sized bags that they were picking up trash and not all recycling, but just cleaning up. And I rolled the window down and I asked him, I said, "Are you with Pat's crew or We Thrive?" No, we saw it on council meeting and I think his name was Ralph and Dave. Ralph and I, we decided we just wanted to go out and pick up some, so it's contagious. And it wouldn't be if it weren't people like you, and I appreciate all the names that you announced at the last council meeting and thanked, because those, it's great. I really feel really good about Reading people are picking up and recycling and taking care of the city. And hopefully, in the next week or so, we're gonna vote on recycling, and I hope that passes. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
And just a comment from several from me, and that you've all heard them before. You know, number one, I'm thrilled to death too that the recycling and the litter cleanup is going on. You know, for me as a mayor, you know, the most important part of that is education. Because I have to tell you all too, you know, the recycling bins behind the stadium have also been incredibly challenging for us. We go down and find toilets in them, wood cabinets in them, vinyl siding in them, garbage in them, all kind of things that are extremely challenging to us and have been very costly to us, as we have guys that have to climb in and remove all these things. In the past, we've also tried the recycling barrels and garbage cans down at the parks. And it becomes a challenge for our public works things when people put ketchup wrappers in there and straws and pop, you know, with, the pop cups with the pop in them, dirty diapers and everything else. So the education, and you know, I certainly hope it doesn't stop. You know, no one should litter, everyone should recycle. But it goes on and on as well. A respect for life in this country, a respect for diet, a respect for each other, are huge things that are just as important. And it's got to go on. You know, I forget how many people I read die per day on this planet due to malnutrition. You know, there's answers for these things, there are. And we all have to work together to do them. And a lot of them are purely a respect for God and a respect for everything God has given us. And yet, you know, we continue to elect officials that remove God from our schools, remove respect from our society, including respect for teachers and police officers, and I'll go over that later. But recycling and litter are huge. They truly are. Just think of the day when no one did it. You know, when everybody cleaned up in front of their house and where everyone was scolded to litter, period. As well as speeding. You know, we can't get people near our schools during school hours to go 25 miles an hour. So anyway, it's a long story. I applaud you all. But this world's about education and investing in education and investing in quality education and elected officials that are up for quality education and not for an education that steers our children down the wrong road. So anyway.
And let me just say that a huge part of that $70,000 grant, it's not just stuff. It is going to have a huge educational component to it in the schools, in the social media, flyers that are delivered to houses, things we can insert in water bills, all paid for by the county. So there's going to be a huge educational component. And Rumpke, should we go full curbside, is also going to mount a huge educational campaign. So, you know, it will definitely be a part of the plan.
Awesome, and that's awesome. And right down the line with everything else too. So anyway, thanks.
Mark Bishop, 2015 Hunt Road. I want to say that years ago, I guess a couple years ago, when I saw the Ormans out in front of my house, I told them as they carried those buckets full of the trash and recyclables, I said, please use my trash cans to empty them out as you go. Thanks to Patrick, I now have a recycling can in my yard. And so I invited them to use that also, so they have a place to empty on the way. So I encourage other people, if you're in, you know, someplace that's notable. They don't want, I know they don't want to walk in people's driveways and use their trash cans without permission. But if you see somebody in the group that's walking around picking up litter, invite them to use your cans and empty them. So they don't have to carry the thing all the way someplace else and empty it. So.
I like that idea, yep.
Awesome.
And while we're talking about that, you may have noticed there's some campaign literature that's been distributed throughout the city. Don't throw it in the trash. Recycle it.
Read it first, but.
Of course you're gonna read it.
Anyone else that wants to address council?
Jim Murray, 21 Magic Lane. I've been searching for an answer since 2018 on the fourth house on Magic Lane. I attended my first council meeting April 10th, 2019. At that meeting, Mr. Nisbet, yourself said, we should be able to find this answer by the next council meeting. It is now October 20th, 2021, nearly 3 years later. I filled out the FOIA for the city to provide the information. I'm just, you know, is it time to just say, you know, this information doesn't exist? It never did. I just don't know, you know, the house is built. I'm stuck with a piece of property that the city took the value of that property and depreciated by letting that fourth house built. So I don't know where to go. I just wanted the people in Reading to know that, you know, I've been working on this question for 3 years now, and I haven't gotten an answer.
And Jim, I'm sorry. You know, I've listened to this quite enough. You know, I and my family would appreciate it if you stepped right up there and answered your own question, because you haven't been given the answers. And I'm tired of hearing you say you haven't. You have been given the answers. It was your house and 3 additional houses.
No, it wasn't.
There were 4 lots on that property, 4 separate lots, and not one of them was created so my sister could cut it for the rest of her life. So, Jim, you've been given that answer at planning commission meetings and here at City Hall. You have.
No,
Okay.
no,
Yes, you have.
no. On the property that Bonnie showed down at City Hall, down at the county, there were 3 lots on Magic Lane. 3 lots. And I don't care if 3 lots, 4 lots, it's 3 houses was on November 20th, 1989.
Jim, if there were 3 lots, tell me this.
3
How did 3 houses get built on 2 lots without a lot split?
Well, that's just it. How
It
did
didn't happen.
How did it?
There's 3 lots.
There's 3 lots. Show
Yes.
me the proof. You know, I'm the longest citizen on Magic Lane. I was never notified from the Planning Commission or the Zoning Commission that there was going to be another lot split. You tell me, you show me that record. That's all I'm asking.
You've been shown, but so be it.
Tom Bemis, 20 Magic Lane. I don't mind the discussion about Magic Lane, but at the last meeting, it wasn't about the technicalities. It was an attack on the character and integrity of myself and my family with no facts. A resident came up and said, point blank, that we must have told the building commission to do something illegal, or we did something that wasn't legal. I want everybody in the city of Reading to know that my brother is the mayor, but building the house, that was not a favor. That was actually made it harder because everybody I talked to wanted to make sure every I was dotted, every T was crossed, as it should be. And it was. And we were given the permission, the neighbors were given the permission to attack my family or anybody in my family is unchristian and undignified. And I would say that I forgive that but I find it very disturbing. And I know that there are people here who said, just the last meeting, I'll look into that. As Mr. Murray said himself, you had 2 years to look into it, and everybody did. It was looked into, asked, answered over and over. I know it was answered because I had to get all the permits. I had to get everything, and I general contracted it. There was absolutely nothing that was done as a favor to us. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
And I'd like a copy of that because, you know, the records I have shows 3 houses. When the city approved Magic Lane, 3 homes, not 3 new homes, 3 homes. I'm looking for the piece of paper that the city changed and said, I don't care about the fourth lot, it's 3 homes because there is a restriction. The zoning committee has a pie lot variance, 20 feet wide. Magic Lane at Hunt Road is 20 feet wide. Therefore, in 1989, they said, you know what? There are 2 existing lots back there. We will let 3 homes total be back there. It won't be fair because of the pie lot situation. I buy that. Now, why the 4th lot was split? Well, let's look at it. 1 lot, we had to get a variance out of zoning committee because what was it? The land was too steep to build on, right? We wanted
No.
to save trees.
There's a house there. It wasn't too steep to build on. There's a house there
Yeah,
that
but
proves
that's-
that wrong.
Well, no, didn't we?
Is there a house there or not, Jim?
Yeah, there is a house
Yes, there is. So why did you
Didn't
just
we
say a
go-
house couldn't be built there?
Well, we went to the zoning and we moved the setback of that house up to where instead of 35 feet, I think it's 40 feet from the blacktop, which makes it 13 feet. So we made a variance there. I was under the impression that, well, maybe the 4th lot, since it's 3/4 of that nice acre of lot, that the other lot wasn't going to be built on. Huh, no, it was always, what did you say? It was always our plan to build the 4th house, to have 4 houses back there, even though the paperwork says in 1998, only 3 homes total. If this is a legal document, any other documents, anything else that would happen would have to be approved. I'm looking for that piece of paper that says it's approved. That's it. That's all I'm asking for.
Well, Mike, or Jimmy, yeah, Mike, sorry.
No.
You know your family well. You
That's
know,
all
you've
that's
known my
all I'm
sister.
asking for.
Pardon me. You've known my sister for probably, what, 60 years? You've known my
Long
brother
time.
Tom for 60 years?
Yeah.
Your sister's sitting at my mom's house on and off as she's in her deathbed. Why don't you go down and visit them? And maybe your sister and my sister can face-to-face explain to you once again your
no.
answer, Jim.
No,
Once again.
I don't want it explained to me. I want the piece of paper that shows it.
Ride down and see Barney. Be a man.
No, you be a man and show me the piece of paper.
I don't have pieces of paper. Don't run the building department. Wasn't my property.
I would think the fact that a building permit was granted is the piece of paper that shows that it was approved. You know that neither of those houses were built without a building permit and then a permit to move in. That's the approval. It's pretty simple.
That's the end of that conversation. Yeah, so anyone else want to address council?
Quick list here. Dwight Dom, 2345 East Galbraith Road. I'd like to wind back a little bit on recycling. I recycle so much, I probably take a trip or 2 extra to recycling dumpsters, bins, whatever you want to call them, different places, simply because I don't like the stuff in the trash either. However, It's been brought to my attention that there's at least one resident, and I'm not going to say where if curbside recycling is mandatory and it adds cost to the monthly bill, that's going to be a problem for that resident, a major problem. So I'd like to just put forth the idea that there should be either an opt-in or opt-out system if that's going to happen. So, like I said, I already take a load or two a week somewhere else. I probably wouldn't sign up for such a system. I would probably opt out of it, simply because I already do it, and I got so much that one little red bin isn't going to handle it. And that's why I take multiple trips.
Big green cart, just so you know.
Big green cart.
Yeah, that's what they're gonna get. Big wheeled cart.
I'd like to see a picture of that. So it's an expenditure thing for the individual homeowner. That could be a problem. Moving back to some of the remarks I made last week on paving, I mentioned Harvest Lane, and I spoke to somebody on Harvest Lane again this past weekend who said that there is a list somewhere, I don't know where this is or what the list is, and said that Harvest Lane was second on that list for paving. That's great. But I got to thinking, you know, Harvest is a dead-end street. Vinca, which also is in Ward 1, near Harvest, is a dead-end street, and it's in really bad shape too. So I got to thinking, there are probably some other dead-end streets that need it too. So I started driving around. I also found North Street, Elm Court, Elm Lane, Granite Avenue, and 4th Street, and I know I missed some others, simply because it was dark, so I couldn't get everywhere. So I know there's a bunch of dead ends. There's only Elm Court is the only through street that I saw that was in that condition. So I'm not sure where that list is. Bo, can you direct me to that list of what end streets are going to be paved when?
North Street next year, just got a 200 and some odd $1,000 grant to do that.
So then that would mean Harvest is next after that.
And I'm so sorry, North Street, you're catching me here. That might be a $600,000 project, might be a 300 and some odd thousand. I've reported on it, I don't have it in front of me.
Okay.
You know, Dwight, we have a prioritized list here.
I know.
You know, the service department, council members are encouraged to be involved with that, and citizens as well.
Well, can you post a list somewhere, like on the Reading website, Safety Service?
The
drop down or
prioritized
somewhere.
Prioritized list?
Yeah.
That will be done as soon as we can get that done.
Okay, because I know there are some residents who are really interested in seeing that. Okay, also, going back to Rumpke, perhaps waste collection and recycling. Again, people on Harvest Lane have had issues with Rumpke not picking up their trash on a somewhat routine basis. I've seen that actually across the street from me, and they've missed my trash once. In my case, they came out about 2 days later to pick it up, but there's a pile of trash sitting across the street from me that has not been picked up in at least a month, probably a month and a half. It's just sitting there in a bag, waiting to be picked up. I don't know why it doesn't end up in a can and get dumped. Well, I don't know, but they're not picking it up. So what I'd like to see, and this is not my idea, but I like it. Somebody gave me this idea. That any time that Rumpke misses and they don't pick up the following day like they're supposed to, that resident can deduct that week's payment from their monthly bill or quarterly bill, or however it's being done now. Sounds like some teeth in the contract to make Rumpke behave. I like the idea. And then the last thing, again, a complaint from Harvest Lane about lack of drug enforcement and endangering people. There was a resident at one time, and I wish the person who told me this was here to speak directly, because now it gets in the realm of hearsay. But if I understand this story correctly, and if I'm relating the facts as I know them, as little as they are correctly, there was a disabled person in one of the houses up on Harvest Lane who was supposed to be attended to by some sort of visiting care system. And some of their assigned care people were not really taking the best care of that individual, but were instead using what we would consider illegal drugs on themselves. and essentially leaving that person in danger. And nothing was really done about that. Again, I wish the person from Harvest Lane who told me that were here to speak on that directly. So I'm curious as to what might have happened there.
What might happen? Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Lindeman.
There are different size containers. The red bin that you're talking about for recycling is an 18-gallon, whereas if this is passed, the majority of people will get a 65-gallon container. As far as the list of priorities for paving the streets, it's kind of a moving target, because the mayor can tell you that there are a number of different factors that go into which street is paved. So we can give you a list today of what the priorities are. And tomorrow, we can have a flash flood, and we can have a lot of washout on some streets, and so on and so forth, and the points for that street then are changed. So I'm sure he can give you a list, and we've seen lists. I know that at least 2 months ago, I think it was about 2 months ago, when Patrick asked everybody to take a ride and give him a list of streets that we thought, the council thought, need to be addressed, and everybody did that. So like I say, I appreciate your question, but I think it's kind of a moving target with those streets.
Well, I understand that. So if that's the case, maybe put up along with the current list, saying subject to change, based on these criteria, whatever the criteria happen to be. Just put that out there, and that way somebody can go to the website and say, oh, well, my street's about 10 years from now, and somebody, oh, next week it starts, great. Just for an idea. So
I might be a point, last night they had an open forum down at the library, and that was one of the questions that, well, it doesn't matter. The man's name lives on Observatory, and he has a relative, I think it even works for the city. So he was raising the same question. It's a dead-end street, and has a lot of problems, and some of the pipes, drainage pipes. So I agree. I think it's something we can always continue to revisit, and that gentleman as well, hopefully that picked up. I was going to pass it along to the administration as well, because he brought it up at the forum that we talked about, you know, that happened last night. So yeah, Mr. Lindeman's correct. There are priorities, and there are dead-end streets sometimes that we can't get grants for like we can on, you know, county roads.
there is a budget. We have a budget.
Yep.
So
That fund is pretty healthy, actually, Mr. Dom.
Well, that's good. The next natural question is, what does it take to bump those very run-down, dilapidated streets up to the top? And how does it get paid for? They are out there. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Oh,
You're looking at, you had something on your mind. Please say.
I always say things on my mind. Look, you know, one of the things that amazed me the first day I walked in as mayor, we had no dedicated funding source whatsoever for roads.
I remember that.
Nothing dedicated. And in fact, it was close to 3 years later when we finally had a dedicated funding source, when we passed a 0.5% earnings tax increase. Thanks to Council Time, Mr. Gertz, a bunch of us worked hard. Our engineers helped. 20% on the ballot of the new dollars, approximately $1.4 million when we went from 1.5% to 2% earnings tax increase. 2/3 of the money coming from people who don't even live here, but approximately $280,000 a year, 20% of 1.4 million was put into paving each and every year. We were obviously way behind at the time. And I think paving, if any mayor sat here right now or any county commissioner, I don't know if we'll ever catch up. The needs are great. You know, it's one of the great arguments why we're shipping multi-millions and billions of dollars overseas and not taking care of our own roads and bridges. You know, I was always taught, you know, if you want to help others, you got to first help yourself. Billions of dollars go overseas to build bridges, roads, schools, everything else. But the long story short, once we got this money, when we started to go for grants, you could offer up to 50%. The state of Ohio wants the most bang for their dollars. So the people offering 50% are more likely to get a grant than those offering 10% or zero. And it's wise on the state's behalf. And so anyway, what we started doing is going for the streets that qualified for these grants. how many cars go up and down, how many users each and every day, how many homes it's directly affecting, and so on and such forth. And we've done incredibly well at it. In my years as mayor now, I think it's 18th year, we're 50 major road paving projects, very close to it in those years. You know, an awesome thing. You know, I have a sister that owns a house in the corner of Galbraith and Harvest. She probably owns the longest length for an individual property owner of Harvest Lane. So I know she bought it in the early 1990s. I've been hearing about Harvest Lane ever since. And I'm glad you researched the other streets, Dwight, because it's not the only one. And so it's a battle for us. It's a battle. You know, it's a battle for the funding, a battle for, like I say, political leaders above and beyond us to prioritize spending better than what I feel they do now. And, you know, it's a fight to be fought, but we're working on it. We've done very well.
So
Millions of
maybe
dollars.
if you could boil what you just, how you just answered down to that list of criteria and post it alongside the current, most recent updated list, that would go a long way.
Okay, and you know something, and we appreciate that too. You know, the first 6-8 years that I was mayor, first thing I did as mayor, you know, the first thing a mayor can do is appoint a safety service director, a person lead a city. You know, I'll go a step before that. In 2002 and in 2003, our city was spending $800,000 more per year, $800,000 more than we brought in, $800,000. We had happened to have a one-time inheritance, or we would have been in a fiscal emergency that would have affected our police, fire, EMS, and public works departments drastically. $800,000 a year we're overspending. Okay, when I became mayor, the $3.9 million that we inherited as part of our electric plant was down to $500,000, and the same auditor that predicted $800,000 deficit correctly in 2002 and 2003 predicted a $1.1 million deficit in 2004. We have $500,000 in reserves. We made it through the year. My first appointee took a 20% cut, safety service director. Okay, I took 2 full-time jobs that remain today. Other mayors have had a full-time city clerk and a full-time recreation director. I took 2 jobs that cost us $56,000 each and cut them to $15,000 each, period. $112,000 to $30,000. Okay, and then we started on our service department. We started as people retired. They didn't get replaced. We sold a piece of property that was in the floodplain by the Mill Creek to MSD for $127,000 in an effort to remove 52 million gallons of raw sewage each and every year into our Mill Creek. 52 million gallons of raw sewage. You know, you guys all had to join hands with the Mill Creek Valley Conservancy District. You know, another thing, as we go on with that, you know, it was sanitary sewer, 52 million gallons a year. I was stunned. First time I canoed to Mill Creek, you know when they say the worst time to canoe it was after it rained. I said, that makes no sense. That should be the healthiest time. No, that's when all the stormwater gets into the sanitary sewers and they get backed up, and it was blowing the lid off of sanitary sewer 700. 52 million gallons a year. You know, they misengineered it. It took about 20 million gallons out per year. Not a small feat, but they're re-engineering now. They got 3 big retention facilities so that when this sewer gets filled so high, it takes water to container number 1. If it continues to get high, it takes it to container number 2. If it continues to get higher, it goes to container number 3, and the water comes out, they tell me, cleaner than our drinking water. But anyway, now they're building container number 4. But anyway, the story goes on and on, Dwight, you know, with paving, with sewers. You think something's going to go up in the future? Wait for your sewer bills to go up. You know, we've gone from calling it a water bill to a sewer bill. It's going to double in the up and coming years. MSD has problems above and beyond that they're trying to figure out how to solve financially. So once again, we have a multitude of problems that is going to take serious thinking and serious cooperation. And you know, one of our big problems here, as I go from one problem to the other, in the last 2 years, we have not been able to have a civil meeting between our Reading School Board and our Reading City Council, you know, to sit and discuss the combining issues of those two. So anyway, Dwight, sorry for the long answer to a short thing. The problems are many. The revenues are few. But you know what? All in all, our best days are ahead of us, and it's because of people like you taken the time to roll up your own sleeves and help us. We desperately need help. We need citizen help. We are founded on a nation where our Constitution, our original Constitution, 16 pages. You know what that relied upon? God-loving, God-fearing, well-educated, self-reliant people. Self-reliant. Now, goodness gracious, we get a call for everything here, wanting us to solve every last problem in the world. And so, as you see, the problems you present to us, I know they're huge to you, and they're huge to us. But then we go to an opioid epidemic, $150 billion in illegal drugs purchased in the United States last year. 70,000 opioid deaths due to overdoses. 70,000 in this country. 150 billion a year in revenues, and that's the short part of it. That's the people who paid the money out of their pocket, the 150 billion to buy the drugs. Ask the families and businesses that have been affected by it. You read the old thing, an ounce of prevention's worth a pound of cure. This one's one where an ounce of prevention, that 150 billion is probably 16 times that what it costs our federal government. And yet, we have officials that want to defund Border Patrol and not enforce immigration law. How do you like that?
Dandy.
I got to talk to a dear friend, Rob Portman, Saturday, wonderful family friend. And my question, how in the heaven do you take an oath to office to uphold the laws and Constitution of the United States of America and turn the other cheek on illegal immigration?
They do it with their fingers crossed behind their back.
I'm sorry.
I'd like to
Anyway,
interject if we
go
could
ahead.
here.
I need to be
Yeah,
quiet.
yeah. I was going to give you a clicker on that one. That's what you're doing to me now. Give us a clicker. Well, let me comment because I like the pronoun that you were using quite effectively there, Mayor. It was called we, because the council played an effective and a part of the whole process of trying to get these things accomplished with the funding that came up. And we worked very hard with the administration, and I take a little bit of I guess, anger, maybe use a strong word, but because we try to enforce what we have tried to do on this council floor, and there were times you weren't here, you didn't come, the service director's not here this evening, it's hard to communicate, but we have done everything, and I believe that this council could do to effectively adjust and do and build, and as I appreciate the fact you pointed out that when the 0.5% increase was put in, it was myself and members of council who pushed very heavily that 20% of that would be put for roads. But you are correct. That is not the only funding that we have for roads. We have the municipal road fund that comes in for our license plates. And you talk about frustration. Back in 89, 91, when I walked out of office, there was $2.5 million surplus. And while I was still in office, they raised that they raised the permissive tax on license plates fee by $5. And we had councilmen say, we don't need it. And they let it go to the county. And I said, well, wait a minute. I mean, it doesn't mean we're always going to have this kind of money. And I fought to try to keep it. Well, it's frustrating that there are council people who don't work with the word we in trying to get something accomplished. And I believe that the current council, it's a little, the criticism that we have not worked with the school. It's pretty foreboding to say that we have not worked with the school when the city and this council voted to borrow $800,000 to make sure that all the ingress and egress, Balser Drive, Columbia Avenue, Benson Street, and now even if you really look at it, another $2 million for Thorn Ridge Drive. We put a lot of ingress and egress and accommodation for them to get into the facility. We fixed up the curbs. We took care of the new traffic control devices, although we did get some money from the county on that. But and then we also have a fund for highways. It's actually called the State Highway Fund. And all that money has to be used on Reading Road because that's really the only state highway we have. But it certainly helps us. We can employ some money to some of our employees through that fund because we do salt and maintain and repair Reading Road. So it's a little disingenuous to take the poke, I thought, in that regard, because, I've been sitting up here, and we worked quite well together all those years. Now, the last couple of years, they're trying to say, oh, we have this we don't get along with the school. I don't know that that's completely accurate. Just because we try to enforce a contract doesn't mean we don't get along with people. And that's really what it came down to with some of us, and certainly myself. And, you know, when you start talking about the situation, you get into these conflicts. Well, that's part of, this is nothing compared to the conflicts that I've seen in past years of what's gone on on this floor. I mean, like I said, to walk away from the $5 permissive tax, we would have gotten additional revenue. I think I'd average about 60 grand a year into that fund. We haven't had that now for the last 30 years. Think about it, what that could have been used for. So it isn't always, you know, the case of us not getting along. There are differences of opinion. I would even quote your father. I'll quote him. You don't need 7 councilmen if they all think exactly the same. You only need one. Do you remember him saying that quite often?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
7 people have a right to express their own opinion up here and have a view, and it doesn't mean that they'll carry the day. It may, but if we all think exactly the same, then we're really not accomplishing any goal up here as a democracy. So I do agree. We've done a lot of good things. We've accomplished a lot of goals. Like I said, I can show you where millions of dollars have been saved. I talk about that. You talked about that $4 million that you just brought up about what was left over from the situation concerning the money left from the electric plant. If you recall, we tried to get a 15-member group in the city to go out and evaluate that $4 million rather than just spend it.
Mm-hmm.
And we couldn't get that accomplished with that administration that was in there at the time. So the reason we were running behind is we were just spending our savings. That money was, that $4 million was brought about in the 1970s, and that had to pay off our bonds. And we had $4 million and spent it like, well, I would say a drunken sailor, but a drunken sailor spending his own money. You know, they were spending city money with, like it was just to keep the thing balanced, and it was not a logical way to do it. So there's a lot of frustrations, but to say that little allegation or statement that, you know, this council doesn't get along with the school. I voted many years ago to redo the track. It was $200,000 to fix the track. It was $100,000 from them and $100,000 from us. We've gotten along with the school in many, many ways. I like working with the school. I have no problem with it. But we're two different governmental agencies. We do each have certain responsibilities to a different part of the duties that go on with the city. And I'll stop too, so you can give me a click.
Mr. Powell.
I think were you gonna have something to say?
Okay, you want to just go to her? Is that what you were talking?
Because I have a feeling what she's gonna say has something to do with what I'm gonna say.
Okay.
Do you want to go first?
No.
No,
Okay.
you go first. Name
Sorry, I'm
and
late to
address.
the party. I'm Jennifer Dick. I live at 227 Harvest. Mr. Dom, when he was speaking, was referring to me and my area of town. So as far as, I guess I'll start with Rumpke and recycling. We have 2 residents that I know of right off the top of my head. They pay for recycling, but we get a pickup truck. We don't get the regular Rumpke or recycling. The recycling, I've watched it, 4:30 in the morning, they dump it right in with the garbage. So they're paying, I assume, extra for the recycling, and they're not getting recycling. And then we have a neighbor, she's elderly. She used to drive a Metro bus, and she was dragged off that bus and beaten severely years ago. She's disabled, she's wheelchair bound. She has windows, wooden windows that are rotting out of her house. The electric meter's fallen off, there's electric wires down. You know, we do our best to help maintain the property for her, you know, within our capability, but as I was saying, I think it was Mr. Orman's wife, I think, Tracy, Jennifer. But I was saying for her, at the end of every month, she has food pantries that drop off at her house because she can't make it on her fixed income. So $48 for her in recycling is it's not something she would use and not something she could afford. So I wanted to say that. And as far as the neighbors go, we had, the county helped me get the people out, so they're no longer there. But I did reach out to several people in the city. I've called 911 at least 3 occasions. We had a drug there was an adult man who was severely handicapped, an invalid, and an elderly woman. They were having nursing agencies or contractors, I don't know which, come in. So we had a drug overdose one night. The lady was in her car. These people were in their home. The police, I had called 911, the police came. When they revived her, they sent her back in the house. And I said, can you please go in and do a welfare check, because they've been in there for hours on their own. They would not. They did not. And that happened 2 different occasions. One night it was a drunk lady that hit our car and our fence. And I called the police. I was actually on the phone with 911 on my porch when she came after me on my porch. They also sent her back into the house and refused to do a welfare check on the people, even though she was drunk and had left and came back a while later. There was a third occasion where 911, I didn't call 911 on that particular occasion, but I look out my window and the Hamilton County Sheriff, Amberley, and Reading are surrounding my house with guns drawn, where I guess the girl that lived there had called 911 and said someone was holding a gun to her head. Well, by the time they got entry into the home, she turned around and said, oh, it was just a finger gun. And they didn't arrest her. They didn't, not inducing panic, anything. She was not arrested by any agency. They were throwing dirty adult diapers out the window. Animals drug it up, froze my air. I had to pay a ton of money to replace my central air because they destroyed my central air throwing the dirty diapers out the window. Right now, there's a huge mess in the backyard. It's been there for years. I've called the city, I don't know how many times, can somebody do something about this? It's still sitting there. But now, like I said, I don't even care anymore because the house is empty, so we've got relief from that because, like I said, the county and the Board of Health and different agencies from the county finally came in and they left.
Seeing Jennifer finding out who's accountable.
Well, I have one more, and the fire department was involved in this, or the EMTs for Reading. The elderly woman, somebody called an ambulance for her. They refused to open the door, and the fire department had to actually climb through a window to get to the elderly woman to get her out. And like I said, this has been going on since 2015. They just left not even 6 months ago.
And Jennifer, again, for those of you who don't know Jennifer, I've known her a long time, hard-working lady. Jennifer, we'll do all we can.
I just wanted, like I said, I know Mr. Don's been up a couple times to speak to us and stuff, so I just wanted to say, there's garbage sitting on the street right now that didn't get picked up on the Friday.
I'll tell you, you're prompting me. Here soon, I'll have Ricky Martin here for a couple hours one evening. I know as part of campaigning, Ricky Martin's in the skillet again, getting fried left and right. And it would be valuable before everybody judges Ricky Martin to hear his job from his point of view and what he battles.
And I'm not judging. I know you and I have talked before. I'm not judging. I'm just saying there's just a lot.
No, you brought it up to me. I got chewed out left and right by a homeowner the other day. I guess owns a house down Pearl Street. The house next door has been falling apart for years. In fact, he says part of it's leaning over his house. It's a challenge. One of these nights I'll have a mayor's forum here soon, have Ricky here. He, just like our building department, and just like myself as our mayor and our police department, our fire department, we have to obey laws as well. We have rules, regulations, policies, procedures, laws that we have to abide by. And shamefully, we live in a country, in my opinion, that gives criminals and disrespectful people more rights than the hardworking people of this world, and it makes it difficult. So I'm sorry, not making an excuse, just telling you flat out how it is. Ricky, one day I'll arrange that. Ricky would have a great story to tell for everybody.
While I'm up here, and before I forget, like I said, I mentioned my neighbor who's severely disabled because of what had happened to her. Mr. Domp saw her house and the condition that it's in, and I've been afraid and hesitant to try to seek help because she has no family, she has no one to help her. I don't want her to be removed from her home, or for it to be like marked condemned or something if someone were to come look at it. But if there's any skilled labor or people who want to volunteer their time, like I said, we do our best to keep her yard up as much as we can, but even the yard is just a lot for us to try to maintain. I've been afraid to call them because, like I said, yeah, I'm afraid.
What's her address, Jim?
230, I believe it's 251.
I haven't been up there in quite some time. I used to take care of my
If you
sister's
stop by
property.
the house, you know, like I
Please.
said, I think it's 251, but if you stop by the house, I'll be glad to.
Okay.
But yeah, if there's, you know, like I said, anybody needs volunteer hours or something that, you know, if they could even help us get it together, we could maintain it, you know, once it's in a good state.
Now, my wife's trying to organize a rake and run and things with her Heat Club at Reading High School. Maybe we can get some people up.
Yeah, that would be great if that's something that. That's the mission. Yeah.
If I send Ricky up, what's your address, Jennifer?
227.
227. My sister Sharon replaced me with a younger niece to take care of the property there. I was spending too much time here. But anyway, so I haven't been up on Harvest in a while, but you know for years I was up there
Yeah, yeah.
often. It's
Yeah,
a
so
second
I
home.
think Dave is gonna say something about the road, I assume, but,
Well, I was just going to mention that I'd spent several evenings, or at least twice, came down and saw you and talked about issues up there and stuff, and had shared that with the administration, and you know, basically the same thing about the prioritized list, and you know, that's unfortunately that's kind of what we were looking at and kind of dealing with. And then I was glad to hear that the problem neighbors have moved out. I know they were aggravation for you, so,
all of us.
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, I know you had said something about, you know, we were like next application,
That's
second on the
that's
next.
what Pat told me when I shot him an email about that. Now, as far as what the ranking exactly means, or, you know, I think it has a lot to do with the points for the street, where they will assign certain points to certain streets, they get certain priorities, but, and that's just based on what Pat gave me.
Well, I know down in front of, Bo, is that your sister's house? Down, you know, like like the curbs are in the yard
They're
now.
in the yard.
They're in her yard. They're like not even on the road anymore, so.
But they were, again, blacktop curbs that were placed on top of the road. There weren't proper curbs from the
Yeah,
get-go.
yeah, I've been there almost 21 years, I think, and they've been there at least that long, so I don't know if that was something the city did or who did that, but I know they've been there for at least that long, so. Yeah, but they're not on the road anymore. That's all I got. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Then we will go ahead and continue with our agenda. There is no communications that were made aware to me. We do not have a guest speaker, no executive session. Any other business that anybody wants to talk about?
Historical Society dinner Friday night, and come see the Lindemans and Derek Leach and Bergie Schulte, and you know, a tribute to Jim Lichtenberg and to Cindy Roth. You know, and it's our Historical Society's an incredible group and deserve everybody's support. So, other than that, I
What
could give a
year is
long
this
report.
one? I think it's the 35th, or what is this one year? I forget.
I
Can't remember the number right now.
Yeah.
Tom Plummer, he was very effective years ago, and Bud and Prophet, all those guys. Danny Albright, he used to put it together.
Oh, I had a picture of that, the ticket in here, and I think I raised it to him. It's been a while. It's been a while. Wonderful program each and every year. Wonderful program.
I'm not going to tell the truth about Lindeman either. I'm going to make up a lot of good stuff.
This is a legislative meeting, so go to legislation. We have no resolutions that were on the agenda. We have just one ordinance. I will go ahead and read that ordinance once I get my glasses on.
That's right. You're the clerk tonight. He gets triple pay here.
An ordinance authorizing the Safety Service Director to purchase and install a salt storage building and associated concrete and block necessary for the building at an amount not to exceed $50,000 and declaring an emergency.
And for anybody that wants to know, for years, we would buy salt and say we order 1,000 ton, well, they would store it for us on the river and we could pick up what we could use. And because we don't have a very good storage facility. Now we are told we have to pick it all up, and you don't want salt being rained on and snowed on. And this facility, you know, is something, we were this close to developing that part of the garage where this shed will go. It will be a removable shed to protect our salt in case. You know, General Tool was very close to expanding and fell apart with COVID and money restrictions. But anyway, that's the story behind that.
And that is just going to be a first
Might
reading
point
tonight?
out that that's coming from the COVID relief fund, too, that I guess we're getting some money back from that. But everybody's getting money from everywhere, I guess. But fortunately, we're putting it to good use. I think it's a good idea.
And we might want to point out that the service department is doing a lot of the brick work
Yeah.
Yes.
on the
We'll do
project.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
they're gonna do a lot of the work.
That's something
Good
Mr.
point,
Lindeman
Tom.
asked about, and
Public Works Departments have asked for this building to be built, and because of the lack of funds, we've not been able to do it again, priorities for this and that and everything else. But if we buy 300 tons of salt, the price is higher than if we buy 1,000,000 ton, or 100,000 tons of salt. So the fact that they don't store it for us on the river anymore, we absolutely have to build this.
How many years you think Daryl's been asking for?
As long as I've been on.
Long time. Yeah. Longer than we can remember.
Sure.
that was our only ordinance for the night. Any other business that's not related to council? Anything that you want to bring up?
Just real quick, we had our demos on Monday for the new software for payroll, fixed assets, accounts payable, budget, and everything in between. So we invited 3 companies to come, and all 3 of them came. So we're in the analysis portion, and then Patrick and I will be meeting with some of them independently, and then probably bringing some people to council, depending on where all those shake out. So I just want to let everybody know that we did do that. This is in part because payroll and finance and cash receipts will go away in July of 2023 for our current item that we have. So we can't use it anymore, so we have to pick something. So that's kind of where we're at with that process. I just want to keep everybody updated.
And what Pat told me today, and he's with his grandma, they'll be 100 years old here in a couple days, but I think now, as we sign rec forms, no matter where that money's coming from, it will deduct it from the appropriated total, and it will give us a more accurate running account of what's left, and that'll be of a huge benefit to us, too.
That'll be a huge benefit to all the people, plus Patrick's position with the rec filling out. Once it's filled out, we don't have to wait for him to get it. He'll get an alert on his phone or on the computer and be able to do it depending which software system. Some of them are server-based, some of them are cloud-based. So just the approval process and then the real-time budget feature will be awesome for all the departments to be able to work in tandem.
So add that to our improvements for the tax department, and we've taken a couple major steps, so good deal.
Where's that software being funded through?
We don't have a designation yet for that. We are just entertaining quotes because they moved up the time when our software will be obsolete. It was 2025 and now it's 2023. So we're just trying to even grasp quote money and then go from there of like, how do we even plan to attack it? Do we do a couple of these up front and then over some subsequent years do we add on from that? So that's going to be a discussion down the road, but yes, we will definitely prepare what funds those would come from.
Okay. Anyone else?
Well, the only comment I would make, this is a great improvement, mainly because what I hear you telling me is we're going to be operating on what's called an accrual accounting basis rather than a cash basis. So sometimes we get reports that are not accurate because cash base means it's what you actually written the checks for. It doesn't tell you what you already are liable for. Where accrual accounting, as soon as you create the debt, it deducts it from the appropriation that you set up for that particular
Right,
fund
this'll-
or account.
this'll
So
all be in
it'll be
real
accrual
time.
accounting, which I've been looking forward to seeing accomplished for many years, but we didn't have the equipment and the ability to do it quickly. And so this will be a big improvement for financing and where we stand as far as our finances throughout the year. Because when you get years ago, we'd have an appropriation for the police, and then we'd have a carryover of all the debts that were created. So you appropriated $300,000 for operations, and before you knew it, you already owed $50,000 or $40,000 of the previous year you hadn't paid the bills for yet. So they were always in a jam. So this will be accrual accounting. I think it's going to be a great addition. However we finance it needs to be done.
Agreed.
Okay, unless there's anything else from anyone, then this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay.
Cost us a hand.